All right, so now I'm going to move on to lesson 18, module 5, part B. Let's do score overflow practice. So there's a lot of these practices we're going to do in class, and this is the more you practice, the better, right? That's what we always say. Okay, what are we trying to do here? So we have a high score tracker runner. I am looking at the main class. This is my quarterback. It is the chef that's going to do all the cooking, right? The other file, high score tracker.java, does not have the main keyword anywhere up here. But what it does, it creates a high score decimal value, right? There's an int, there's a double, and it's going to do a whole bunch of stuff with it. What I am interested in is if you look at the to-dos, right, we're going to write the method right here, increase high score. That's going to take in some sort of amount. It's an integer value, 17, 200. I don't know what it is yet. And it's going to go ahead and increase the high score to the high score tracker object if the high score int does not overflow. Otherwise, increase high score double. So here's the deal. We don't want to overflow to happen. Now, presumably, I'm playing whatever game I'm playing, and there's going to be some sort of max score. Okay. So let's go ahead and first things first, it wants me to write the method to increase the high score. So in other words, if I played a game and I score 1,000, and Thomas comes along and he scores 1 million, well, we need to update the high score amount. Now, let's say Amy comes along and they hack the system and they figure out a way to capitalize on a glitch and they get a score of 158 trillion whatever points, which is not possible. Okay, well, that's a very big number that is bogus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, if we do try to feed that into the system, it's going to revert back to the highest or the next lowest negative number, as we talked about in class with overflow. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the conditional or for the method, okay? And we're going to go ahead and increase high score int amount. So pay attention to the words it's saying. In this case, I'm not going to delete this. I want to code it word for word. So it says write a conditional. That means there's some sort of if statement, right? That we're going to evaluate. So whatever that condition is true, run some sort of code. Okay. And it specifically needs to update the score. Okay. Um, oh, sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Yeah, if increasing the score by amount would cause an overflow. If it does, widen the high score to a double and set it to the previous int value plus the amount. Okay, so if high score causes overflow, do this, right? So I'm just kind of putting in the placeholder so I know what to do. If it doesn't cause an overflow, simply increase the int. So that means that we're going to go ahead and if you want, we could do else and do some sort of whatever the condition we want, right? Just update the high score. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, remember in this, and then whatever the amount is. Okay, so it's going to update the high score. So I'm going to take presumably so whatever the high score is plus the amount, whatever that might be. And again, I'm just writing in a bunch of code here just to kind of keep a placeholder. That's it. I'm not going to run this yet. So we got kind of that locked in for now. Okay, let's go back up to the top. So the first condition we want to check is that high score? So again, what's coming in is that amount. Is that greater than, or will that cause an overflow error? So how we're going to check that is that amount greater than, remember in class we talked about integer.max underscore value, right? So we're checking to see if that's true. Whoops. If that is true, then we want to put in the code here. What's the code going to be? It's going to go ahead and do a couple things. It's going to take amount, right? We're going to widen that high score to a double instead of to the previous int value plus the amount. So again, we're going to take whatever the high score is, and I'm wondering, is there a variable created here? Yep, right here. So there's a high score tracker, that's the initial score, and there's some sort of high score here that's included. And it looks like there's a high score int and high score double. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do high score int because that's created here. And we're going to go ahead and make it equal to a double. We're not done there yet, right? Because I need to add whatever the amount is to that. Let me just check. If if it does, widen the high score to a double and set it to okay. So if I know the amount is coming in and it's an integer amount, it should actually be if the high score int plus that amount exceeds the integer max value, then I want it to update high score as a double. We're going to widen it. Okay. So we're going to widen it to a double and set it to the previous int value plus the amount. So high score is going to become whatever the double is, right? To high score int plus amount. What's probably going to happen here, though, just keep in mind, high score int started off as an integer, right? Didn't it? So what I need to do is if I try to store something in an int that's a double, that becomes a problem. So guess what we're going to store it as? A high score double. There we go. So let me just check something real quick. So if high score nt plus the amount, whatever that is, which is an integer value, right? We know that. If it's bigger than whatever the maximum value of an integer is, right? It's a big number that we looked at. Then I want you to run whatever this code will be. It's going to take high score double, which is just it's a double data type, right? So decimal. And what I'm told to do is take the high score nt, cast it as a double or widen it, excuse me, and then add whatever that amount is. Otherwise, if it doesn't cause an overflow, simply increase the int high by the score amount. So I did high, should be high score int, right? Because that was the integer plus the amount. And that's it. And let's go ahead, and I can't just leave it like this. We have to actually store like that with the assignment operator. So what, again, if I'm in bounds, basically, if I'm not overflowing, then I'm going to go ahead and execute this line of code, which says, hey, whatever that high score is that came in or that's coming in, add it to the previous high score. And then do I need to return true at the end? I guess I could. Here's what I'm gonna do. I don't know if I want to necessarily return true here. If I run this, actually, let me just run this and see what the problem is. There might be some problems. Do I have any problems? Nope, no errors. So I'll leave it as it. Did it do what it's supposed to do? I think so. Let's check it out and find out. Let's instantiate a high score tracker object. So let's do high score tracker. We'll call it Thomas equals new high score tracker, parentheses, and it needs to have some sort of with a starting score. So let's just say Thomas is 1,000. Let's run it. Just make sure there's no errors, which there isn't. Perfect. Then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to use Thomas to call the increase high score amount. Let's say he played the game again and got another, 500 points, right? And I want to specifically, can we print it? Let's just try that. System.println, will you be able to print it? I'm going to try this here real quick because I forget off the top of my head. And I have no problems here except what's the problem? It returns true. Okay. What it wants me to do is we did that. Okay, and print the results. The result is true, but that's not really what was helpful. Let me just check something here. Actually, let's go ahead and here's what I'm going to do. We know Thomas has a value, correct? We know Thomas currently has a value of 1,000 plus 500. So what if I printed the object itself? I can't remember if I coded it correctly to show me the value. It may not. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to here. We updated high score int. So something you're not really understanding is let me go ahead and print both scores. Let's do Thomas dot. Let me print Thomas dot. Is there a get high score int? Let's do that first. There we go. So I want to see, is there an integer value for this? There it is, 1,500. Let's go ahead and make this tracker like really big. So I'm just going to make it a humongous number. If that's the case, we do have a problem. So error integer number too large. Can I just do really big number? Okay, so that's okay. Let's add a couple zeros here. Trying to see if this thing breaks. There we go. So you can see that, whoops, is that not big enough? I'm just trying to break this program a bit. There we go. So, okay, we're getting an integer number too large. I don't think I must have missed something here. So if, let me print something real quick. I forget what the value was of the highest max value. Let me comment this out. A little bit of debugging on the fly. There we go. So my biggest number I could do is that. So let's go ahead and use this as my initial score. Right? So anything more than that will just simply revert back. Let's do a 1 there. Okay, there you go. So right there, I see there's an overflow error that happened. Let me just see if the other one printed to a double or not. And this is the other method that should have been created right here. Let's see if it actually updated it to whatever I needed it to be. And there you go. So you can see this one actually worked correctly. The overflow did not. So that'll work. Let me test it, make sure it passed. I wasn't really paying attention to to-dos as much, so looks like I didn't make it, but I'll fix this later. But the point is, at least for the purpose of this one, were we able to write the conditional? Yes. The whole point is we want to be able to write a conditional, an if statement that checks to see, hey, is this high score going to be beyond the value of max value? Yes or no? And if it is, we're going to go ahead and do the widening, which it should have, but I'm going to check with the test in a little bit. And then if not, then go ahead and update the high score. Let me just try just for fun. What if I decrease the value to whatever? Let's just make it 1 digit less. So I'm going to run. So you can see that it does actually do the addition of the value correctly. So I think my code's correct. There's something it's not happy about. Again, just as a reminder, the test button, when you hit it, it's going to check and see, is that code correct or not? It'll read the actual code. So don't worry so much about the test right now. I'll go through this in class and hope this helps.